All righty. Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon. We're here today on Circle Healing Network. Your host here, Robin McClendon, as you guys know. And I'm very excited because I have a special guest here today, Reverend Doctor, Sarah Azrael. And we met
Saralise.
Saralise Azrael. I knew, and we practiced this, right? And I said, I want to get your name right. And I'm always calling you Saralise. Now I go to introduce you and I say Sarah. Oh, Robin. Anyway, it's all good. Listen.
It's all good.
It's all good. So, but we met at a few months back at Contact in the Desert. And I say that you were one of the best things that happened to me there. You and another really wonderful spirit, Renee. And so I'm glad that we've had a chance. We've kind of been back and forth over the last couple of months. I've been traveling and you're on a global pilgrimage, which we'll be talking about. But I'm going to share a little bit about, what you're doing for those listeners and viewers who don't know your work. And then, of course, I want you to jump in and we'll get right into talking about a lot of the work that you're doing and similarly with me on the Divine Feminine. So,
absolutely.
So you're a global visionary. And you have a number of projects going. Legion of Light Global Ministries is now in its seventh year you've started. You've shared with me. Mm-hmm. You are also the creator of the Sacred Village Project, the Portland Priestess Portal, which is a global ministry as well, and the Modern Magi Mystery School.
Modern Magi Mystery School.
Magi Mystery School. And actually, you told me before it's the Legion of Light Global Ministries. I want to make sure I said that because. So anyway, I want you to tell us more about what's going on, and I'm excited to have this conversation with you because I know you and I have talked in agreement on some of the Sophia concepts and what have you that are out there, as well as just the ley lines, a lot of the divine feminine energy that's on the planet that's coming to the forefront. So we'll discuss a lot of that. But let's talk about your global pilgrimage that you're on. And we're excited also that Circle Healing Network will be following you around the globe on this and just kind of filming and having a lot of fun keeping up with you. So just jump on in, Saralise, and come on, share with us.
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you great, really good.
Okay, great. I'm going to talk softly because there's a lot of people around.
Yeah, you're already on that pilgrimage,
Yep, I'm already here, already in it. So actually, we opened the portal on November 3rd, 2012, and through the Portland Priestess Portal, we opened the portal to the pilgrimage itself. So I did a 6-week training with a group of priestesses and magi, which was called the Portland Priestess Portal. I brought DNA activations and brought everybody up to speed or up online where they needed to be for the ceremony on December 21st, 2012 in Kauai. Which was done in the Kalalau Valley at the top of the Kalalau in Cloud Forest, overlooking the mouth or the yoni of Earth, of Gaia. So on the night of the 20th, we hiked into the dark and hiked out in the dark, and we literally had a 6-foot wide cliff that dropped down 3,000 feet on both sides. So we were literally like on this muddy, slippery cliff in the middle of the forest, in the ocean. And in Kauai at that moment, the timing was like, I think it was like 1:10 a.m. or something like that for the actual solstice. And so we were present there, and there was 10 of us, 9 women and 1 man in a 2-person tent, chanting. And basically we did what was a galactic Earth peace treaty. And we had about 60 ships in the sky during this process.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So we were definitely in the Stargate, and it was open. And so what my calling was to come full circle with my soul's journey and to repair the Stargate, which is the 12th Stargate, planetary Stargate of Gaia, and to and that it controls all the other 11 stargates. So by creating the Galactic Earth Peace Treaty, we managed to activate the other 11 planetary stargates. And so since then, we've been working on many spots around the planet and activating and repairing the stargates and restoring them to their original divine blueprint. So that's what we've been in the process of doing as Guardians of Gaia. So,
okay.
Yeah, so that's what the pilgrimage is that I'm on right now. So I've done Kauai and the top of Haleakala, that then rainbow bridged over to Shasta, and that was in 2014. Okay. So now in 2016, I'm on another pilgrimage journey, and I will be activating and repairing a stargate in the European UK region. And I'm not going to speak to that specifically, but that's where I'm going.
Yes.
So there's a lot of activity going on right now with, Britain leaving the European Union and the financial grid and everything that's happening with that. And so the work that we're doing hopefully will restore our planet to its original divine blueprint and be able to activate the portals in a positive way that will help with repairing some of that and bringing it back into right relations and balancing masculine and feminine within those constructs, right?
And it's definitely sorely needed at, being in such a patriarchal, sort of cultural system now worldwide. It's so important for the divine feminine to be rebalanced in male and female. I often say that because a lot of times people just think we're talking about women. We're talking about humanity.
We're talking about the divine feminine wound within all of us that is so deep, and it's been programmed into us. It's not even naturally our wound. So it's almost like it's a false wound, but the wound is so deep in all of us that it really leaves a gaping hole. And so the process of repairing that, you're going blurry for some reason. That's interesting. The process of repairing that, hold on one second. Okay, much better. The process of repairing that, the divine feminine, is that, yeah, exactly. We're starting to have interference.
Yeah, always. That's always about the good stuff. Yep.
Look at that. So let's just do a little bit of a prayer here.
Yes, absolutely.
Much better. Okay. So I just shielded us with a rainbow light and, sealed our field with a tube of white light. And so I feel like we're going to be okay for the moment.
Yeah, we will. It's going to be good.
You're still blurry, but
it'll come out okay. I think once we actually do the video, it does that sometimes, but we're protected. Okay. We put that energy around because of course it's always trying to come in on these kind of conversations.
Oh yeah. Especially these conversations. Yeah. Especially because the information is so incredibly clear and potent that it immediately attracts the bugs to the light bulb, if you will. And they're like, ooh, monitor.
Right.
And that's also one of the reasons why I chose to speak softly, is to not draw attention to what I'm saying and to be clear in my, communication. So having said that, this comes back into the balance of the masculine and feminine, and how the Divine Mother has birthed in through many, many souls. And those souls I choose to call Sophias as aspects of the Divine Mother. And so those Sophia souls are present and available for this divine mission of bringing forth the feminine Sophia codes in through the DNA. Right? And so the DNA, once activated, and that once it comes online, the person has the capacity to activate others in humanity with these Christ-like Sophia codes that we're carrying in our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a natural born birthright. This is nothing, you know, special to specific people necessarily. However, what is true about that is that some souls have more of a responsibility to the mission and recognize that.
Right.
So if you feel a calling to clear the dark words from your DNA, for example, backwards and forwards, and clear it from your family bloodline, then that is a more of a propensity to be responsible for humanity on a different level.
Right.
Not to say that everybody doesn't have a job to do, but that's a specific mission that I call the Sophionic mission, which is different than, it's a very specific mission, you know. So there are delineated missions within the construct of our lives that show up in different ways. And one of those is the Sophionic mission, which is clearing the dark lords from the DNA and the ancestral bloodline.
Right, exactly.
And you can do that through your body. So this is the work that is really being done right now. And once the DNA is activated and you come online with your talents and your gifts that you already have within your DNA, you learn how to utilize those, which is what the training is about. Then you have the capacity to then, restore the land and humanity to its original divine blueprint.
Right. So the training you're talking about is through the Modern Magi Mystery School. That's where people could sort of connect with you if they wanted to.
Well, yes. I mean, my website is really the best way to connect with
me. No.
The website is priestessportal.wordpress.com. And I specifically and intentionally have not utilized a URL other than a free website for a reason, because every website I've ever had has been hacked.
Yeah, I've had that. It's funny. I've had the exact same thing. Like no apologies. I actually had websites in which I'm paying, you know, a lot of money to own the domain, the whole thing, and they would keep on getting hacked by let's say sex sites, and that's a mild way of putting it. Okay,
right.
And then I'm constantly buying upgrade. What do you call it? You know,
protectors or whatever.
Protectors. And every time I'm thinking, wait, well, I'm paying you. Don't you provide that? And finally, I've done the same thing, Saralise, and I have not had any problem with WordPress. And I'm happy with WordPress, and I haven't had any problems. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
So we'll also put that link beneath this video when it's published, so people will be able to connect directly with you.
Yeah.
So I
wanted to. My email address too is also a really good way to get in touch with me. Which is powerpriestess@gmail.com.
Okay, and I'll make sure that those are down there.
Circle Healing Network, you know, when they email me, so that I know where it's coming from.
Okay, certainly.
Yeah,
I will put that down there. And one of the things that you were saying, to bring it back to your discussion here on the Sophionic mission and how that lines up with certain star seeds and what have you. You know, I've also come to this conclusion with the work that I'm doing as well, Saralise, is that, I mean, it's a common belief, sort of like in the community, that we're all here to do something or be a part of this, blah, blah, blah. And it's this real inclusionary thing. And I'm not a believer of exclusionary either. But I do believe that there's a lot of souls who have decided to incarnate during this time period where the other souls have come in to help the planet and also to raise the consciousness, so that they would have a faster evolution. So it's not so much that they're here to do anything more, but to evolve faster. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I think, you know, everybody has a spoke in the wheel.
You
know, and there are certain specific, there are certain ways that people incarnate to be able to serve best within that construct of their spoke of the wheel and what their soul's journey is. And the Sophia spoke is a very specific mission.
Right, exactly. And the only reason why I say that, because I've worked with people and some of my clients, and you know, they've very directly said, I don't really want to do anything. Why do you know, like, I want to be a part of the community, but I don't want to do anything. And hearing that over and over again, I came to the conclusion, no, some are here just to ascend fast or to just be a part and to almost upgrade their DNA through the process and not, you know, there's this sort of belief of those who are running up and down the court that the people sitting on the bench may want to get off the bench, but some just want to be on the bench, and it's okay. You're still on the team.
Maybe they're grounding us out. You know, maybe they're the ones that are grounding the frontliners. You know,
exactly.
Because also that could also be for me, that could be a program running. That I don't want to do anything thing could actually be a program running in the collective.
Could be. But being a Reiki master and doing a lot of energy work on people, you come to this place that you realize they are right where they're supposed to be, you know, and they get to understand that their role is, like you say, to ground or to do other things, and that it's not about fear, it's not about not wanting to participate, it's about that is their level of participation. And I've found that with some of those clients, you make them feel comfortable with, yeah, you're right where you're supposed to be, you know?
Absolutely. Everybody is right where they're meant to be, for sure. There's no place that you're not, right?
Yeah.
So it's like wherever you go, there you are kind of thing.
That's true.
So for me, it's like I'm right where I'm meant to be, and I know that, and so I don't even trip on that anymore. Like, okay, so if this is happening, then this is what's meant to happen right now, or if this is happening, then that's where I'm going.
Right.
And I ask and I check in with my body, and like, does my body want to go there? Does, you know, like for instance, right now, you know, going to Europe and the UK, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to the line of fire, girl.
Yes, you are.
You know what I mean? I'm like literally going straight into the line of fire.
Literally.
But that's, you know, that's been my spoke of the wheel.
Right.
That has been my experience, that I literally go in when it's the hottest, and I go and I cool it down.
Yeah, and that's what you do.
You know?
Earlier you were talking about the divine feminine wound. Have you spoken before, of done work around how that wound originally occurred in all of us? You know, that really deep.
Yeah.
Could you share some of that? Okay.
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. That stems back actually to which. Okay.
I know.
That's a deep subject. Yeah. That stems. Let me just do a little. That stems back to the original rape in Eden, approximately 450,000 years ago, and that's where the Dark Lords entered Eden. They shapeshifted as the queen of the Anunnaki, and they entered Eden, and then got the magic of Eden, and then went back in and raped the mother goddesses one by one, and convinced Isis to be the mother of humanity. And through that process, and through that process, Eden was destroyed, and Tiamat, the planet that was the former Earth, Eden was destroyed. And so then the mother goddesses that were birthing from their own seed, divine humans, could no longer, it was destroyed. So then the only way to procreate was through the process of intercourse with a being such as, you know, Enki or whatever. And from that intercourse with Enki and Isis, Marduk was formed. And Marduk is equivalent to like Horus. It's not, but it's like he's the grandson of King Anu. So that group of beings that were in stewardship to this planet at the time were benevolent to a certain degree, but then one of them, that consciousness, that dark consciousness, entered one of the brothers, and then everything kind of fell apart from there. And so there's, you know, when you look at the planet now, actually, in all the, you know, like the Grand Canyon, for example, or all of these places that are like wonders of the world, they're actually rock quarries.
Yes.
And the mesas are actually tree stumps.
Yes.
So like we had a very different world. And so we are actually a portion, I think I did. We are
I looked at that.
Of the original planet. So we're actually not the same. So I don't necessarily believe that we're flat earth or whatever, but I do believe that there's something going on, and that now we're dealing with the same situation with Nibiru coming around again. So this is our opportunity, really, to step into the higher frequencies and not be affected by the physicality of Nibiru, and making sure that that doesn't happen.
Exactly. Because I know when you and I were talking the other day, you were the one who sent me the link on there are no forest. Wasn't that the link you sent me? And I did look at that. What a compelling argument he made.
I know, right?
And when you look at it, you're like, gosh, how come you couldn't see this?
See it.
Yes.
Right. You can't once you see it, you can't not see it anymore.
I'm gonna put that link underneath here to that video too, so the viewers will know what we're talking about. Real compelling. Yeah. But so thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah, and to your point.
Wound. Go ahead. To your point.
No, to your point. The wounds. No, I was gonna just pick up what you were going to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so the divine feminine wound then directs. It stems directly from the mother goddesses losing their power. As beings that could conceive from light a human form, right? And so then that like, that happened with the divine feminine, then gave the patriarchal consciousness an opportunity to like weave, right? But then there was the beings as well. So then there was like this. One to the Christ bloodline was automatically royal, first of all. So then it's like they weaved and they like made their way into the Christ bloodlines. So the Christ bloodline is actually a royal bloodline.
Exactly. I know what you mean.
The difference between the Christ bloodline and the royal bloodlines is the DNA. DNA, right? So the DNA was activated through Christ. So that changed the game.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So, hey, we got some interference. Check that out.
Yeah. Okay, though, we're going to be good.
So, the descendants of Christ, those bloodlines became the Merovingians and the Templars, and so they had an opportunity to preserve. They were doing everything they could to preserve the knowledge and the wisdom of the light within the constructs of, So another piece too, there's a lineage of the codes of light. So there's a direct bloodline DNA lineage that carry the codes, but the codes can be passed through person to person.
Okay.
And so that lineage isn't physical genetically. It's more like you're chosen and then you get the codes and then you pass them down to the next person or something like that.
Right. Okay.
So there's a lineage of the codes of light. And those beings that carried the codes of light were of a star nation. So the star lineages brought them here to the planet. The advanced races came here at a certain point and brought those codes, and then those also manifested through Christ.
Got
Does
you.
that make sense?
And it makes a lot of sense, definitely. And, it goes back to what we all know, those of us who've been down a lot of rabbit holes, that, everything that you're taught is always the opposite. So for those who are connecting to your story, you just go back to Eve in the garden, and the whole idea that because she sinned and ate from the tree of knowledge, that she would have to have pain. She would have to have pain in childbearing, where, as you're talking about, the divine went from being able to birth in light to now having to birth through this physical process that was pain. So, the story always gets flipped, right? So as opposed to saying, well, you guys were birthing in light, and probably still could if we hadn't messed around with you, we make the story to be that you sinned. And so this is your punishment,
Yeah.
It's always twisted.
And what's interesting is the whole idea of the Immaculate Conception with Christ also. And
Right.
you know, Mary was a trained initiate priestess. She wasn't like, you know, she wasn't like a
some poor little girl running around
like,
with
there were like hundreds of people that prepared for the Christ being to come in.
Right.
It was a whole group of Essenes. Like it wasn't something that wasn't planned. It was like completely planned. And he came in, and all the beings around him and all the people around him, his grandmother, Anna, like all of them were prepared to bring this through the vessel of Mary. And so Anna herself birthed from light. So she had a light conception. So so that was all very much prepared and planned out. Like they planned it out very specifically so that the energy could get here. And it took a whole group of people to make that happen. It wasn't because they had to protect him.
Right.
There was literally protectors.
Yeah. And to your point, one of the things that I know a number of years back and doing some of my studies and stuff, that I realized that, you know, we all, you know, I grew up in a very, my grandfather was a minister and he was an archbishop, and you know, I lived in church.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I went through a process of just, you know, studying that, knowing the Bible inside out, really most of it against my will, but, and a promise that as soon as I get on my own, I'm not ever going to deal with hell's fire and damnation again. But
my grandmother, my German grandmother.
Gosh, yes.
German Reform Christian, my grandmother.
Yes, exactly. It's funny because my grandmother was German as well on both sides of my family, and to come out of that presence, I know what you mean. So what happened though, to the point you were making about Mary, I started wondering in my early 20s, okay, why when you saw all the pictures of Christ, always, you know, the Virgin Mary or Mother Mary was around, you know, of course, Mary Magdalene, you know, he was always around women. Now, aside from the apostles, but at critical points, even at the crucifixion, you know, he was surrounded. Who saw him come out through his resurrection? Mary Magdalene. So when you think about it, you know, why were women so prominent at such important times in Christ's life? Just to be women who are running around, washing his feet and giving him food. But had there been men, the title would have automatically been priest. These were priests. These were, you know, various magi. These were, you know, teachers. But when it's women, they're harlots and mamas. You know, and we got to make the connection. That's a part of history that was very difficult for them to write it out. So they couldn't write it out. So they had to write it down, to your point.
And here's another aspect of it. There's a lot of people that don't even believe that he existed.
No, this is true.
So, and where I come into that is that then there's the Isis-Horus connection, and Horus being like the Christ, you know what I mean? And so that comes back to the reptilian DNA and all, you know, the Dark Lord DNA and all of that.
Yeah.
So how it's playing out is very programmed into the collective.
Yes.
So in order for us to deprogram that and step out of the idea that so here's an interesting point, what I wanted to bring up. The idea that Christ was the only being on this planet that ever was a light being or whatever, you know, when we had Buddha and, you know, all these others,
exactly. Right. I'm with you there.
So it's like, I do believe that Yeshua came in human form.
Yes.
I believe that. I have memory of that. Personal journey of my soul.
Right.
However, it doesn't mean that Yeshua didn't incarnate before or after.
Now, this I agree with you on, as well as,
because
you know,
if he's a bodhisattva, right? He would be here right now.
He would.
But here's what's interesting. I just want to share this with you real quick.
No, please go. No.
I had a vision, memory, whatever you want to call it. For a long time, I had the notion that I was somehow Mary Magdalene. You know, that's a whole trip that people get on, right? So I went through that. And now I'm on the other side of that, and I trust and believe that I am a Magdalene in whatever that means. Like I am a frequency
Sure.
of the Magdalene, and that's
Of the
again a
priestess.
Sophia, an aspect of the Divine Mother. So I was shown many things in regards to Mary Magdalene's life and Yeshua's life, specifically. And one of the things that I experienced on a journey was that Magdalene, when she went into the caves in France, and she lived out her life for 30 more years in the caves in France, and when it was her time to ascend, she had made an agreement with Yeshua to blast her codes out to the collective, to the soul collective, in such a way that at this time in history, right, end of the Kali Yuga, whatever you want to call it, the shift that everyone knew about,
right,
that the codes would be spread to a larger group, so that there were Christ souls that would come and birth in, so there wouldn't be just one.
Right.
So like the second coming is like a whole group of Magdalenes and a whole group of Christ beings. So there's a whole group of Christed beings that are coming through the vessels,
right,
of birth channels that are holding these activated light codes within their DNA to help humanity and Gaia and all the beings here as bodhisattvas. We're coming in as bodhisattvas.
right.
So at a very young age, at 4 years old, I had a visitation, if you will, from a group of beings, and I sat in council with them, and I knew that I was one of them. Okay, and they were blue beings, and it was very, very clear. And they basically showed me who past, present, and future. They showed me who, all the history of, what I had experienced in my soul's journey. Either that, or or it was a total mind control situation where they planted all those things in me through the military. I don't know. I felt that it was a benevolent experience, and
exactly. And I think that's what you have to go on, actually.
Oh, absolutely. And so I was downloaded a lot of information during that time. And one of the things at 4 years old that I was very clear about is that I had been Magdalene. So my whole life, I grew up thinking that I was like this, because at 14, when I started studying the Bible 3 times a week, and, because I was going towards Jesus, right?
Right.
But then as I studied the Bible, I was being assaulted. So I started to lose it, and I was like, get me off this planet. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I threatened to kill myself, all this stuff.
Sure, that happens. I mean, on this journey, yeah.
Well, I was upset because I couldn't believe what I was reading. I didn't relate to it. It wasn't correct. It didn't feel right to me. And so I had nobody to talk to about this, if you can imagine,
Yeah, I can.
So, yes, I'm sure. So as a Sophia, you're kind of out in the cold.
You are.
So in that regard, I knew that I had something that was important for humanity. Like, it was very clear to me that something was up.
Right, exactly.
And I couldn't live with myself as a normal human being. Like, I was really clear that I had a special mission. And I was sort of told that too at 14, because I tried to kill myself.
Yeah.
And I didn't try to commit suicide, but I got caught in the what do you call it? The ocean. And I was washed up.
Sort of surrendered.
And they brought me back, and I surrendered to and then they brought me back, and I had an overlighting happen when my soul came in, and everybody saw it. It was this big fiasco, But but during that event, what was interesting is what they said to me. They said, your future is so bright, you can't possibly see it right now, but just hold on, just hang on. We're here with you. We, we love you. So I had this huge influx of light come into my field. And then for 10 years after that, I was drinking in the darkness. And during that time, I learned all kinds of stuff about the dark realms and being basically in hell on earth. Right. And when I came out of that, I had all this this grit, to work with.
Right.
To recognize, to know, what I was dealing with. And I had seen things and didn't even understand that, about reptilian. I didn't know about any of that, but I was seeing it all.
Right, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
seeing beyond the veil and like
Right,
seeing all the
right.
levels of that. So I began to understand when I got sober at 24 that I was on the front lines, and that I had a mission, and it was very important. And so I began to reframe my life in a way that I would do things to support that. But it didn't, I was still in the program, I was still operating in 3D. I was still in it.
Sure. Yeah. Because at that point, I think a lot of us were fighting against the waves, so to speak, to use your near death, and now experience as an analogy, because I think a lot of us you physically took yourself there, to be up against that wave. And when we were fighting against it, I think that, I know for me, thinking about myself in my late teens, early 20s, the idea of it being a programming issue that I had needed to deconstruct, it was more, and I'm relating to your experience, it was more, I felt like I had to try to remove myself from it, not deconstruct the program. And I think when we came to the idea that we could just start deprogramming, sort of just deconstruct this matrix, we're fine, right? We're supposed to be here. It's the matrix BS that's not supposed to be here. We got to get rid of you because we're supposed to be here with Gaia, And that was an eye-opening moment for me. So I can really relate with what you're sharing, and I appreciate your candor, because I think that a lot of people on one level or another, Saralise, were up against that, or maybe they're up against it now, and they're like, oh, that's what's going on. Oh, I got you.
So like,
the
system itself was designed to be broken.
Right. Yeah, it's like cracking a code, like you're saying.
Exactly. Like you're living in this broken system. Precisely to the exact nanosecond of life, and yet it's all a program running, and it's broken.
Right.
And it's designed that way. So it's like when you come out of that and you see, and you like, whoa, like, wait a minute, glitch in the matrix, and you're like,
right, exactly.
Wait, what's happening? Then you have that like experience of like true light and true energy, and you're like, whoa, okay, wait a minute.
Right.
What is this other thing?
Right.
And so a lot of times when people do ceremony with me, they come out of the ceremonies and they're like in their true nature, and their source codes are there, and they're in their bodies for the first time in their life, and they're like, oh my God, and then they see everything, and it's really clear what's going on. And then
precisely,
and then they're really scared. But so I prepare people, mentally. I'm like, okay, here's the deal, like, here's what's going on.
Get ready.
So, like, if you're not ready for that, you got to step out, because once you cross over that line, there's no turning back.
Right. There isn't. And I know one of the things that I discovered,
you're with Gaia, and that's a whole nother level of,
Right. And I think, to your point, one of the things that I had discovered early on was, I went through my own process of settling the whole thing about Christ consciousness, and about Christ, the whole religious thing. And, early on, I came to this point of the Christ consciousness. I just decided that it's a consciousness that I connect with. I can't connect with the stories. I can't even begin to compete with theologians and, ministers and the whole historical thing. So I'm not even going to go down there. I'm not even going to spend my time trying to fight that battle. But I am going to agree to a Christ consciousness, just like earlier you said something that I also settled myself with, is like the Kali Yuga consciousness, the Shiva and the Shakti consciousness. I mean, these are Buddha. These are all consciousness. I see them as a big blanket, a big tapestry, and each of them are sort of a weave that goes through it. And we get to jump through our levels of consciousness back and forth between these waves of consciousness. And so even recently, when everyone was talking about wave X and all of that, and I laughed to myself, I said, what a patriarchal construct. It's Kali Yuga, but nobody wants to call it Kali Yuga. But that's what it is. It's not an X, like we don't know, like, like the missing number, or X, like we're like the unknown. It's the known. But let's once again take this community and cloud it in the unknown, so that we can't call it what it is. Divine feminine energy that's coming in like a mother would do when you've messed with her children. Yeah. Yeah, well, mothers protect their infants. If you come and you mess with my kid, I'm coming after you with all of my wrath, and it may not be pretty. That's Kali Yuga. It's not destructive.
For sure. Right.
You know, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so yeah.
It can be, though. It can be destructive in a way that it resets.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And so those energies, those cosmic energies are incredibly important. And what happens is when that level of light comes onto the planet, two things are going to happen. One, you're going to go into the bliss with it, or your body and the darkness within you is going to react to it. And it's going to go, whoa, you know, and it's going to have that like, you know,
right, exactly.
The darkness doesn't want to lose control, right?
Exactly.
And it's happening so quick now. I mean, the veil was lifted.
Right.
I mean?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
in October, the veil got lifted, and that's it.
That's done.
That's it. It's not going back down.
No, it's not.
So thank Goddess that was able to happen. And, you know, some of us were involved in that.
Right. Exactly. So you were talking about, so around in your 20s, you know, you kind of came to this understanding about, you know, basically having to deconstruct the world around you. So now, at what point did you realize that you were able to begin to integrate the Magdalene consciousness in with the priestess consciousness and now the portal work that you're doing? How does that, bring us?
That's an interesting. Yeah, so when I was 35, my mother passed. And she came to me in a reading. And she said, through this person, she said, do you remember when you were 4 years old and the group of blue beings came to you in your bedroom and blah, 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 blah. And I'd had no memory of it at all. Like,
wow.
At all.
Zero. Okay.
Zero. But at that point, I'd activated my DNA just recently prior to that. In November of 2003, I commanded the activation of all my DNA strands, and I knew that I had to do that. And then boom, right after that, the Da Vinci Code and like all this, and I was like, ooh, I had something to do with that. You know? And I mean, I was already spiritually like a healer, healer, doing all kinds of work. So I was already on the tip. I had a wellness center, like I had a lot going on. But at this point, when I was 35 and my mom passed, and she came to me and said, you know, you need to remember that memory because it's all there for you.
Right, right.
So all of a sudden I had this like flash of that moment. And then I was like, oh my God, wait, what? And then it was like whole new level, you know, like, okay, Mom, thank you. And then so I started to unravel that memory. And then from that, the blue beings came right away. They came right into my field and they were like, here we are. We're here. We've been here the whole time. And I was like, right,
exactly. It was like another one of those veils going up. Yeah.
Veil got lifted. And and my friend and I, my best friend of 15 years at that time, she and I were like talking in the middle of the night in our car in Studio City, and they were like standing across on Ventura Boulevard, like right in front of us.
Wow.
You know? We were like,
wow.
I was like, oh, do you see that? She's like, yeah, I see that. And she described them, and I was like, okay, we're seeing the same thing. Okay.
We're seeing the same thing. Yeah.
It was like 4 a.m, you know, nobody's around, but there's like these huge, tall blue beings like standing in front of the gap. It was like hilarious. It was so funny. So that then turned into me getting the downloads again and starting to understand all the different details of my past incarnations. So then I went into a really strong soul retrieval process for like the next, that was early 2004. And so for the next 3 years, I went through this like bam, 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 you know, like just soul retrieval. And then I also had my son, right? And I was a single mom. So it was like I was trying to do both. And, you know, it was like all this stuff happening. And I'm in court with them. And when I activated my DNA, within a week, I was in court with the father of my child, and they were trying to take my kid away, and like all this crazy ass attack, you know, because I activated my DNA, and they're like, oh shit.
Here we go. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah, exactly.
She just changed the game.
You just changed the game.
I just changed the game. So they were like, yeah, you know. So yeah, so that's when I was like, okay, something's going on here, and I'm involved directly with the planet. Like, it's not even a joke. Like something.
Now let me ask you something. Let me ask you something right to that point, because it reminds me of something that we were talking about the other day. But would you say that at that point that you activated your DNA, was it around that time that you started realizing more parasitic relationships that were going on and may have been around you?
Oh, yeah.
That prior to you didn't necessarily see them as that, because people were just like had straws in you, sucking you dry.
Yeah, I started to pull the cords off, and like I just, you know, I like released all the cords, and I like started to, and I started to
wanted
notice
to bring that
how people were draining me and like feeding off of my life force. And so now, you know, when I work with people one-on-one,
I wanted to just say this real quick, because I wanted to bring that up, and I know we can talk more to it later, but a part of the divine feminine, and as we're talking about that and our listeners sort of thinking back to where they are in this process, that once you do start activating the DNA, the divine feminine, start doing the healing of the wounds, you may think that you're going to be on easy street, like there's love and light everywhere. No, you start attracting parasitic, or you see the parasitic relationships, or you attract them. And I know my personal healing,
the light bulb, right?
Yeah. And part of my personal healing has had to be to learn, and still learning, how to deal with those relationships as they disguise themselves. And so I know you can speak to some of that with regard to the work that you're doing, but I wanted to throw that out there so people could sort of see what we're talking about. And,
oh yeah, absolutely. So then, so like within a week of me activating my DNA, I'm in court with the father of my child for 5 years.
Oh, for goodness sake. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. 5 years. To the point where by the time my son was 7 years old, I had to leave Los Angeles to save my life so that he would have a mother.
Wow.
It was on that level of like psychic and energetic attack. And of course, I can't say to anybody, this is what's happening, you know.
Right, like, exactly.
I'm like, you know, they're trying to take my house away. They're trying to, you know, everything you could think of, dude. It was like unbelievable. Like, and I was making more money than them collectively combined.
Right.
You know, but that didn't matter. They were and they wanted me to pay them child support, and he was this stay-at-home dad, and like, this.
I think not.
I'm an unfit mother, but yet I'm making more money than both of them. But
and so I'm an unfit mother, but I'm fit enough to take care of you.
Right?
Yeah, right.
It was complete and utter bullshit, like unfucking real. So yeah, and at the time, my mom dies in the middle of all this.
Oh no! Come on, Sarah.
Oh yeah,
really?
Oh no, yeah, they took my mom out. So the day before the court hearing, the ex-party emergency court hearing, I had to decide whether or not I was going to go bury my mother or go to court and save my kid. No,
that's a tough one.
Yeah. So I went to court the next day and said, Your Honor, my mother just died, and I need to go bury my mother, and my son needs to come with me. And I was like, she's lying. And I was like,
all the hissing.
I literally went and looked at the judge and was like, Your Honor,
I can prove this.
No. Yeah, I can prove this. My mother just passed.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just, it was unreal. And my son was 2 years old. I mean, and he had been kidnapped by them, and it was this whole thing, and like trying to get him back from them. And I mean, oh my God, it was
craziness.
It was complete insanity. They had me
as a result
papers. I didn't even know what I was signing. Like, there was all kinds of crazy manipulations happening.
And this is a result of you coming into your mission, what you're supposed to do, activating your DNA.
Yep.
All this begins to happen.
All that began a week after I activated my DNA.
I believe it.
And on that day, I also recorded a song.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I was actually in university, Holmes Institute, for becoming a spiritual practitioner and an ordained minister. Right?
Oh, okay.
At the Agape Spiritual Center in Los Angeles.
Okay,
so I was
know
in the
that.
middle of my training, and I recorded this song, you know, spoken word, but it was a spiritual mind treatment prayer. And so I went to a recording, you know, guy, engineer, and I did this song. And then that morning I had activated my DNA. So it was like, everything was like aligning with like purity, like everything was absolutely perfect. And then within a few days, it was like my whole world turned inside out. And I've been under attack ever since. And that was 13 years ago.
13 years ago, yeah.
I mean, not to say that I wasn't before.
Right.
But that's when it was like so distinctly obvious on all levels.
Right.
Like there was no question in my mind that something was up.
It seems
like
I
never thought that I was self-creating this. I knew it was outside of me, that I wasn't creating my reality on this. Like, no.
Right, exactly.
Something else is going on here, you know?
Right, exactly.
Right.
And also, you know, to the, as you tell your story, I noticed that November seems to come up a lot for you. November must be like a particular cycle that over the years, every time you told your story, it's like in November, blah, 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 November, you know, like, I'm sure you've made a connection to that.
Yeah. It's the few months before your actual birthday, which is in February. Supposedly that's like the ramping up right before your birthday, like you're ending a cycle.
Gotcha.
So like I always move in the winter. And like I moved to new places in the winter, in the fall, in the autumn. It's really strange. It's like my whole life kind of is surrounded by those months.
Gotcha.
Like I'm a winter soul.
Right.
And yet,
exactly. That's a good point.
Like, you know, remember when you had the colors and you're either autumn, summer, winter, or spring?
Yeah, exactly.
I was winter.
Yeah, winter.
So like,
that's a good point.
I'm a pitta, which is interesting. I'm a pitta vata in Ayurvedic. So my body runs hot.
Right.
And I need cooling things. So like mountains and high altitudes and, you know, all of those things really work with me, you know, warm colors, but cool vibes.
Right. Now that makes sense. That makes sense. So, so then coming forward here with what you're doing with this global pilgrimage, you know, want to tell us more about that, or, you know, the part that you're able to share, because I know some of them, I know some of it you're not sharing, and I want to acknowledge that for you, for the audience, because you've got to do the work and then we get to talk about it. But overall, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But overall, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to finish that sentence?
No, I want you to start talking. So I was just talking. Go ahead.
So, so in the beginning, when I opened the portal, I had the trainings and like I brought 17 people for 12 days to Kauai to do that whole event, right? And it was like pushing through walls of darkness to get that event to happen, like for real. Because every time I'm about to do something big, they usually attempt to stop me. Right.
Yeah.
But now it's gotten to the point where they can't stop me.
Right. No.
And no matter what they do, it's like,
you
know, it's like so minor now, the deliberate interference. They keep trying, but it's like I don't buy into it anymore. So it doesn't really pull me as hard.
Right.
But
exactly.
they'll like in the last 4 days, they've like put people in my field to like drain my energy or project onto me or be cold to me, or like literally my ex from Maui showed up last night in the song circle, and I was like
oh
and he
really?
was like ice cold to me, and I was like, whoa, what's going on? That's so weird, because like we didn't have any problems.
Right, exactly.
And so I was just like, I felt so unsafe that I left.
Right.
I was just like, wow, I don't know what that's about, but like, I don't even want to.
It was intense then. Yeah.
It was super intense. Like I've been stabbed in the heart. Like,
right.
And then
it's a lot of that going on too, Saralise.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
And I lost my sponsorship, like financial sponsorship for this portal, you know, for this pilgrimage, and yesterday. So like all of it happened in the same day, and they were literally like slamming me all day. And I was like, no, I am not. Nope. You know, every time I'm like, nope. Nope. So, you know, I'm just running, literally I run on full faith. Like everything that I'm doing, I don't really have any sort of like, I have a plan and a prayer, and a plan. And guidance as to what I'm meant to be doing.
Sure,
right?
exactly.
And then everything else is like, whatever. I show up, shit happens.
Well,
Stuff happens. I shouldn't say
exactly.
shit
Yeah.
happens.
No. Well,
I
you
show up
know,
and shift happens.
shifts happen, and shit happens
Shifts
too sometimes. Hell, I
happens,
mean,
yeah.
you know, it does. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
As long as we got these dark forces on there, some of it is shit. But you know, but we transcend it though. And so, you know, when you were talking
Absolutely.
earlier, when you were answering my question about the earlier statement you had made about the divine wound on the planet, and you shared all of
Right.
that, and then I'm thinking back to where your pilgrimage started, as you said, in the yoni of the earth, which is of course the very
Exactly.
place. So it's like this is a big full circle here we're talking about, like your whole,
Yeah.
you know, you're just coming right back around to the
Yeah.
idea that that's the earth's creative place, that's the womb, that's, you know, that's the
Well,
place
that's a birth
of the
portal,
wound
too.
and the womb, you know.
Right. There's a birth portal there. There's
Right.
literally a portal of souls that come in right there in the ocean, because there's no land mass from the Kalalau beach all the way up to the North Pole,
Right.
or all the way in to the North Pole, however you choose to look at it.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
There's no land mass. So it's like this open area, which is clear and can bring in, like, they can come in and deposit themselves in this spot
Right.
before
right.
they birth in through humans.
Right. And it's interesting because a lot of my earlier work is, you know, I'm an artist and a healer, but I mean, for 30 something years now, my work has actually literally been about the yoni, about womb, about that place of creative source. And a lot of it comes out of the Hindu and Vedic, as well as the tantric art traditions of India. And so I've also looked to see where that was showing up on Gaia, on Mother Earth, you know, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
There's actually a sacred womb grid around the planet that has been overlaid with the vile vortices. So like the 19.5 above and below the equator, that whole thing all the way around is actually the sacred womb grid.
Right.
And so
exactly.
they have created, because it's all portals, right? So, like, for instance, Mauna Kea on the Big Island, that's 19.5 above the ley line, degrees above the ley line. So there's like all these places on the earth all the way around the planet that are holding these key grid points. And that is the sacred womb grid of the planet. And in November of last year, the dragon in Asheville, okay, so now here's another whole piece. Asheville is like, the Appalachian mountain chain is the oldest mountain chain on the planet. It's the oldest land that has not been underwater.
Okay.
So it's literally like, you know, like, it's like that. and you go there and it like supports you.
Yeah, and it's funny. I grew up around the Appalachians, from Pittsburgh down to DC, so I'm very familiar with that mountain range. But I never knew that it was the oldest landmass, that it's never been beneath water. I never knew that.
Yeah,
wow, it's a very strong mountain range.
Very strong mountain
yes,
range.
amazing. Yeah.
So the living blue crystal of Atlantis, right, is in that area, and so the whale clan came to me and said, "We can't hold the grid anymore. You need to activate the living blue crystals, or living crystals of Atlantis." And that was after the dragon came to me and asked me to release her, right? And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know how I feel about that. And she goes, let me introduce you to the dragon clan. So she's like, so then all the mother dragons came in, and she said, and they said, we are going to protect the sacred womb grid, which you have activated. And we need you to release her so she can do her work. And I was like, okay, I get it. All right, so
we're good.
I did that. Yeah, so I did that, and I was like, oh my God, this is huge. So in relation to the womb, right, the next big thing that has been coming through that is crucial is womb cleansing ceremonies.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And so what happens is I'm doing these womb cleansing ceremonies at festivals and places where there's a lot of women, and we just naturally come together. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And we do these womb cleansing ceremonies, and we literally we cleanse the womb.
Wow, yeah.
And they come into their power, which is their creative seat of power within the womb, the sacred bowl within their womb space, right? And this is like the most important work we can be doing right now on the planet.
Absolutely.
For women. Even for the men in their hara, which is their womb.
Absolutely.
Right? It's their seat of power. So it's like, this is the place where everybody gets corded into, right? And so it's either the back of the heart chakra or the womb.
Yep, it
And
is.
so they'll cord into each other and they'll feed off of each other because that's what they're taught to do.
To do. Exactly.
Right. So it's like that has to clear in order for
Mhm.
people to bring their sovereign beingness into their bodies and be in their sacred bowl and hold their power in their womb space, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's like one of the key pieces to all of this is like cleansing your womb. And it's not something that is easy to do on your own because it's,
No.
you know, there's like shamans in there from past lives. I mean, it's like the
It's
whole
tough.
thing, you know?
And it's so,
tough. It's not
it's
easy.
funny.
It requires screaming and, you know, it's like
I
the whole thing.
I know I have to stop and say this because as you're talking, I'm thinking like, you know, my mind is racing and
right. I can feel it.
You can feel my energy.
Oh yeah.
And at another point, in one of these other shows, we'll maybe share exactly what happened and how we met. But one of the things I can say is that there was this recognition between the two of us, and we were like, wow, it just hit us.
Bam.
And to your point, the womb cleansings, you know, as an artist, I've shared with you that a lot of my healing work, a lot of the work that I've come here to do has happened through my art. But early on, I didn't realize that's what was going on. Like about 25 years ago, I was really more thinking, okay, I'm just doing my art. That's the happiest place I am. I was teaching at the Smithsonian at the Corcoran School of Art, though during that time period, I was on the faculty. And so I was really enjoying what I was doing, but I was just doing the art. And at that point, I had my first child, and I realized that through that birthing process, I came into some realization that, wow, my mind, the brain is an organ, the heart is an organ, and the womb is the organ are connected in consciousness. Because I quickly realized I didn't know when I was making decisions, which organ was functioning in that decision-making process. It became a blur. And so a lot of my early work was about the abstraction of these organs. So you didn't necessarily
and differentiating like what was happening
there. And also the similarities of them. So anyway, I had done this whole show that was exhibited at the Corcoran Gallery. And this was like I said, about 26, 25 years ago now. And I remember the show had been up for a couple of weeks, and I happened to be coming into the gallery. It was mid-afternoon. And there was no one in the gallery but this gentleman. Now, when you see the work, and I'll ultimately show the listening audience at another point, this work, you will look and see it. It's an abstraction. So there's nothing there that's going to identify it except for this tall, I'd say he was probably in his late 30s, gentleman was standing there, and he was American. He was white American, and he was standing, he was looking, and he was just captivated. And then finally, and I'm kind of standing back, just sort of watching him, watching my work, you know?
Right.
And he finally said, oh, he said, I feel like I'm in the womb, but a womb that is healing me. This is what he says.
Oh.
Well, it blew my mind because I knew the work was about the womb, but it was really, really selfish. It was me exploring this energy. I didn't realize, but it was the first time, Saralise, that I realized, wow, there's healing energy on this, and the work that I'm doing is about this. Yeah. So I wanted to fast forward to what you were just saying, because you and I had that recognition when we first met that, wow, we had been in many, many, many lifetimes before. Yeah, and that this was a reason. But this is the first time you shared with me this Appalachian story. So we haven't talked about this before. So it was really interesting that it reminded me back to that as an example of my work and the work I'm still doing. Well, and it's valid. It's huge. That cleansing.
It's everything, and it then stems back to the divine feminine wound, right? It goes right back to that.
Absolutely.
Piece.
That's where it's going.
That's where it started.
That's the connecting fiber. Is the divine feminine? Absolutely. That womb.
The divine feminine womb.
Womb. No, that's what we're talking about.
Within the womb.
Oh, the womb. Exactly. The wound within the womb. Exactly. Precisely. Precisely.
So that's where we can go back into and like reset from that place and know, you know, and feel. We can also feel our inner child sitting in the sacred bowl. Yes. We can feel the divine mother holding us.
Right.
You know, and once we feel that support, once we feel the essence of the cosmic mother, like holding us, right?
Right.
then we can relax a little bit, because then we realize that we're totally supported.
Yes.
So part of the divine feminine wound, to really define it, is that we do not feel supported by the mother.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
We've got plenty of like left brain, intellectual support, money, finances, you know, constructs, squares, you know, rectangles, triangles. We've got all that.
We got all that.
Yeah, we got all that. But what we don't have is the spiral and the circle and the nature of life, which grows in a spiral.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is it that our planet is what's going on? Is it turning? Are we still? What's going on?
Right.
Why does everything grow in a spiral? Like, what's really going on there?
Yeah, and we know the toroidal fields are everything of what's going on now. I mean, we know this now. So people are waking up to that realization.
Yeah, and that spiral of like life and energy, that's the sacred womb energy.
Right, exactly.
That's
and now
through our experience.
And with the veil having been lifted, as you talked about, I mean, Kundalini is just rampant now. And that's why so many people are like, because
people are waking up.
Yeah, it's going to happen, you know, like it or not, you know, it's happening. Yeah,
it's happening. There's really no way to stop it now.
Right, exactly.
And so as that energy starts to move through people, and it's like the veil's lifted so much so that people can see like directly what's in front of them. There's like no thing there anymore.
Precisely.
Right? Yeah. Because the contracts have been nullified.
Yes,
they've been locked out of Eden.
Yes.
They can't get back in.
Right.
They've got big problems. Big problems. And they're not so happy with me right now.
They're not so happy with the what? I'm sorry.
With me.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm like, hey guys, it's an upgrade.
It'll be okay.
You can still exist. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's just a little bit of reformatting here. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's good.
But
it's about people constantly having to reset their mind. Like, don't get stuck in this one way.
Right.
You have got to stay fluid. And in that fluidity, it's easy, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And so, right, exactly. If you stay in the spiral.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? If you go linear, you're going to be, you're going to get stuck in the corners. Like, you're going to get thrown around and you're going to get stuck in a corner and like, but you stay in the river.
Right.
Then you're fine. You just keep going downstream. You'll be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that happens on all levels with abundance and jobs and everything. Like
everything.
Every aspect of life is involved in that. Right.
And what you were speaking about earlier about having, everything that happened the last couple of days, having lost your funding for, or temporarily been
released, whatever.
Yeah, for your funding, whatever. We're not going to label it, but
it's not worth
the fact that you're saying that you're continuing on in it means, like the work that's happening now is people have to live the work. And you're living the work, you're the pilgrimage continues, the journey goes on, it will.
There's no stopping it.
It's going, you can't stop and say, oh, well, I don't see how this is going to work, because manifestation is not in the seeing how. It's all right brain. It's staying in the right brain to manifest. Yeah. And so you're so right.
And it's an outline that you're following. So like, if you just continue staying in the outline of everything, it'll come back around. Like, it'll be like, oh, well, there's still the universe compelling and meeting my every need.
Absolutely.
The universe conspires to meet your every need. So like, okay, so that released itself. So now what's next? So like, you just got to stay in that energy and like keep moving. So what am I doing? I'm still packing.
Yeah.
I'm still deciding what like I could have just been like, which I kind of did, but
we got to do it for a moment just to get it out,
an off day, and then I went and had some frozen sorbet, and it was good. I was fine.
Yeah, and then we're doing this interview because this is all about putting new energy out and stuff around the project. This is how things happen. We never know what's happening, the next moment.
And to say this, and I never say this, but I'm about to say this now because it feels like I'm being guided to say this in this moment. Sure. I am open to receiving donations.
Absolutely.
For the pilgrimage and sponsorship, because it is actually something that requires quite a bit of money. And I pretty much, just so everybody knows, I have been paying my way
You have been. I remember.
Wholeheartedly. I have
I remember you talking
paid
about
to
that.
do everything that I'm doing.
Right.
I lost $35,000 in 2012. I mean, I've lost a lot of money. Or I can say it like that, or I can also say I have invested the money,
a lot of money. Yes,
but
exactly.
yeah, and for other people also, not just myself, you know. So
Right.
now it's at a point where it's like, okay, I'm totally open to receiving support and sponsorship on this level.
Absolutely.
And being willing to receive is a big part of it, right?
Yeah,
and,
you have to open to that.
Yeah, and then it's like, you know, the sponsorship situation was such that she's like, she didn't see how her role was important in the whole grand scheme of things. I'm like, oh, honey. So I'm talking to my guides, telling her guides, like, will you please show her the rest of the vision?
Yeah,
you know, because
exactly.
Like, there's a lot there, and she's such a potent part of it, you know, and like, I know that, but she can't quite see that, and that's okay.
Right, exactly.
And you know, so it's like, she doesn't feel important or whatever. And it's like, actually, you're like one of the most important pieces of this entire thing.
Yeah.
You know, you're not a bank. You're actually a priestess who is supporting the work of the entire planetary grid shifting into a new level of
which is
existence.
Huge.
It's huge.
Exactly.
And she sees that part. She sees all that. But she doesn't see how her role, you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't do anything about that.
Well, it goes back to full circle, like we were talking about. Everyone is playing a role, and you know, when we embrace the role that we get to play, it's fundamentally, you know, it's a big puzzle. It's all coming together. But it's like, if my role isn't your role, then some kind of way, if it seems like it's a more glamorous role, then I kind of get confused. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not how it should be. You know,
that's not how it is.
Yeah, because we're all
such an important role to play in all aspects of it.
When it's all about manifesting, and your ability to manifest, to connect with this is about that, while your ability to manifest, to connect with the portals is about that. I mean, it's all manifesting, you know, and it's just how we come in.
It's also all receiving too. Like,
and
what I've learned is, like, it's not that I have to manifest anything. Actually, it's just I'm available to receive from source that which is supporting my life stream and my divine inheritance, period. End of story. Like, I don't have to do anything to manifest the money. I just need to sit back and receive it.
Right, exactly.
There's an outline there, or why else would I be given this mission? Right. The universe seeks to, like, it's actually seeking me if I'm seeking it. You know, like, it's like
precisely. Well, it's symbiotic.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Symbiotic. It like goes together.
Right, exactly. No, that makes that I'm totally with you on that one.
Yeah.
So then, we're about an hour and 10 into this now. So we probably should we can, you know, go ahead and take another 15 minutes or so and kind of like
wrap it all up.
Wrap it all up, and then, you know, also with the donation piece, is there a donate button on your website, on the
actually there isn't.
Priestess portal? We should get one on there, girl.
I know.
They're pretty easy to get on too.
But it's my own personal effort with that.
Well, Spirit just opened you to that, didn't they? From what I just witnessed, I thought they just opened you to that personal area of discomfort. Sorry.
Yep. I personally don't know how to do that very well. I've tried to do it in the past, and for whatever reason, it hasn't worked out. But I do have a PayPal, and that's where I receive my session and money and donations, and the Legion of Light Global Ministry is through that. So the Legion of Light Global at gmail.com is the PayPal email that people can donate money to. If they, and you know, any amount of money is like awesome. I have no expectations of any of it. You know what I mean? So if somebody wants to donate like $1,000 or $100 or whatever, I don't care.
It's all good.
Whatever it is, it's all good. And it's like the universe recognizes that so completely too. Right. Like the universe will recognize that whoever that person is that is donating that, you know, energy, they're putting energy into the mission. Exactly. It's not about me.
No.
You know, because the only thing that money is doing is providing travel. You know, it's like
to get it's transportation.
Transportation and lodging and like food.
Right.
You know, it's not, and you know, and I'm still doing all of my work to receive funding and to do sessions. And so that's another thing. If someone really wants to work with me, I want to share this because that I will be working while I'm over there and would love to work with people. So I wanted to share about my Magi Priestess Realignment Session Series. So basically what I do is we assess, it's anywhere from like 3 to 21 sessions. And what we do is we work directly with that person to, bring them from where they are right now into their full embodiment and their full power on their mission, like activated DNA. And we literally go through and clear all the subconscious mind control programs. We clear, malevolent observers. We clear all kinds of stuff out of the field. And then we replace it. And we also, repattern the brain in such a way that we bring about the fullness of their embodiment. And this becomes the command center, right, of their embodiment. And so they're in full power and they're utilizing their source energy and in their sovereignty. Right. Yeah. So, and so that's awesome. So we do that sort of rapid fire actually, because that allows for so like every 3 to 5 days, we'll do a session, boom, 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 boom. And the reason for that is because then it doesn't allow for the dark forces to kind of get in there and get in again. Yeah. That makes a lot of interference. That's so interesting.
Yeah, everything that happened in my session yesterday didn't happen. It's back to that AI, plasma control stuff. You get you right back into thinking, oh, none of that really happened. And it can be like an incredible experience. And then, people will say, I don't think that really happened. Maybe, I didn't. It's amazing. So that's good stuff, that work. And I wanted to just jump in and say this too. What's about the way the rhythm of the universe. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I just want to complete that thought.
No, go ahead.
So if someone's interested in that specifically, like working directly with me to do the work, they can email me at powerpriestess@gmail.com. And just and say that, reference Circle Healing Network, and they want to do sessions, and then we can start that conversation.
Okay, because on this video, I'll make sure, that I at least list all these things in terms of your projects and how people can connect with you on the level that they want to connect, for sure.
And sorry, well, I'm plugging
No,
myself.
please, no, let's plug on, girl.
Right. I do Akashic record readings as well. So I can go into the Akashics and I can, they can ask any question they want. And there's a whole system for that as well. So that's another thing that's milder. It's not like deep, the deep work, but it's still really, really helpful. And there's a lot of information that comes through that. And I have the capacity to see, the realms pretty deeply. So, there's direct information that comes through and very specific guidance. And it's beautiful. It's just, I feel honored to be able to receive on that level and to be able to give that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love that Akashic record. Yeah. That's such a great place to and like you said, for people to be able, it's a place that's sort of like when you go to the library and you want to learn how to be a gardener, you get to go and read it and find out about it and kind of dabble to see, do I really want to be a gardener? And then you're like, yes, I do. So then we can come in for the Magi Priestess sessions, to really be the gardener, full on, full tilt boogie. Yeah. That's a good way of being able to be a part of that process. Yeah,
totally.
So what I wanted to say also to what you were saying, and just kind of interject, it's so amazing how the universe works, because you've been traveling since we first met, and then we were playing a bunch of phone tag, and then I've been traveling most of the last month and a half, just kind of getting back. And on the very day that I text you, you had direct message me in Facebook, and we hadn't talked in 6 weeks or more, right?
Yeah, right.
And it was and I was like, golly, so you and I talked and everything, and we talked about doing this show because, both of our work and our passion for the divine feminine was such a good topic to talk about and to bring to the listening audience. But at that time, your funding was on, and we just firmed this thing, some stuff up yesterday, remember?
Right.
And everything was cool.
Right.
And because you were talking about which ticket, if you're going to go into Berlin, if you're going to fly right to, you know, all this. And so I'm saying that because, you know, I want people to understand that this is the flow of the universe. It wasn't like we decided to do this show so you can talk about what you're doing and get around to asking for a donation.
Not at all.
Not at all. It was not about any of that. It was really about just absolutely doing what we've been doing, which is sharing about the divine feminine. So I wanted to say that because it hit me about how beautiful the rhythm and, like we talked about, the spiral of the universe really is when you're just in that energy flow. It's amazing to me. It really is. I just wanted to throw that in there because it's not not only another example, but it really talks about synchronicity, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Totally. And like, I normally never plug my stuff. It's just not something that I personally do, ever. So it's like people just come to me, like they see me and they say, I want to work with you. Like it's more of an attraction or something. You know, they just see something about me that they feel safe, or they feel like they want to like hang out with me and, you know, hang out and do whatever work needs to be done. So I've had to create a system, you know, that works, because I didn't have one set up for a really long time. So as over the years, I've created a system that actually really works, you know, and I feel really compelled to share that.
Exactly.
You know,
and rightfully so, especially during these times. You know, I mean, it's okay to put the sign out. And I know what you mean, because I've been a bit like that myself over the last 30 years of just been on this spiritual pilgrimage. You know, a lot of it starts out being about me, about yourself, about your journey. And then when you realize that what you're doing is affecting other people. And then you realize, wow, there is a system here. There is something that I'm doing that's reproducible. You still have to get to the point of hanging a sign out. You know, it's like putting that shingle out, and that's the toughest part, because the whole process has been so organic. So I know, you know?
And not only that, but like on my website, you look at my website and you're like, huh? You know, it's like not all like, hey, I'm your life coach. It's not like that at all. You know what I mean? It's like a totally different animal. You know, like we're not even on the same ballpark, you know. It's just not how I operate. Like, it's just not something I'm interested in advertising in that way. It just doesn't resonate with me to do it that way. It feels more organic to just speak to it when it comes up, or, you know, people come to me, or I talk to somebody and they're like, whoa, hey, you know, and we relate, you know. So it's a very organic process.
Absolutely.
To feel into who spirit wants me to work with.
Absolutely.
It's really spirit led, the whole thing. Like all of it. I'm completely surrendered to spirit, like for real.
Right, exactly.
You know, for real.
I believe
for years
that,
now.
Yeah.
You know?
And then the right people always continue to connect like that, you know, when you kind of put it out there like that. So where will you, what's going on after this? You know, where, you know, what's it looking like for you for the next few weeks, or
my goodness, girl. So there's something else that they're asking me to mention, and I'm not plugging myself again, but it's so important, like the work that is being done with this. So I've been developing this online course, which eventually will come out. I can't guarantee when, but it's called Energetic Responsibility, ER 101. And what it is the science of self-sustainability. And it's a system to sort of examine and go through your energetic matrix and your embodiment, and like really find those places where how we react and interact with our environment. You know? And so we learn how to be energetically responsible through that process, and like really take it to the next level of like being here in the world, but not of it, you know, and being able to like operate and function within the construct of our reality of what it is right now, but operating from a place of spiritual awareness and integrity and compassion, and just really understanding the sovereignty aspect of that, like being so sovereign in your beingness that like nobody can sway you, you know, and to really
Yes, I know what
understand
you
like your
mean.
mission and how important it is, and like being responsible for that mission.
That's big.
So there's a whole
Yeah.
system that's been developed and created around that. So that's something that I'm looking at the fall, you know, when I come back in the fall, to really dive into the next level of that. And I've been writing a 3-volume series of books, and, you know, I've been doing a lot of different things over the years, but this, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, Spirit's like, gotta go, gotta move, you gotta go do this thing. I'm like, oh Jesus, okay. You know,
here we go again.
Yeah. So it's like I need to listen to those so completely to make sure that everything is, you know, I'm being directed by Spirit, you know.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Your camera's frozen.
Really? It's funny because
Yeah.
it's not on this end. I think sometimes what happens, what I've noticed happens with the broadcast is that the line will be doing all kind of crazy things and it looks like it's going to be horrendous. And then when I actually download it, everything is just going smooth. It like stuff that I noticed happening.
Oh,
like,
good. That's good to know.
Yeah, so we should be
there you go.
at the end of it. And yours is frozen in, so it's like weird. It's like
weird.
Some kind of way, just energetically, it seems like it works out. So
yeah. Oh, that's
okay. Good. So well then, anyway, you know, of course, you know, you'll keep me up on what's happening, and you know, as you move around, we'll check in on you and, you know, just, you know, tape some things and catch up with you. And maybe you and I might end up catching up with each other in Europe sometime in October. You know, if we're not on the same expedition, at least we'll definitely hook up.
Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll hook up at some point over there.
Oh, yeah. And then also people can subscribe to my blog if they want, because I might be making blog posts.
Okay.
And that's right on my website. So
that's going to be on.
Follow the PPP, and you can just put your email address in there.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's lots of ways to stay connected and to find out what's going on. And I'm going to do my best to be better at like posting things after they happen.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I still have to write about the whole summer, you know, right now.
It's
so
time,
much to write about, you know.
To do that for sure. Yeah. Right.
But I'm about to, you know, fly over, so I have too many things going on.
Exactly.
Oh, and on Facebook too. I forgot.
That's right. You do have your
Saralise, just Saralise. You can follow me on Facebook. I don't have any friend space, but you can definitely follow me on Facebook. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And not the Reverend Dr. Well, both the Reverend Dr. page, but like just my regular profile is probably the best way to connect. You know, and I have a 4-name, Saralise Antara Nada Azrael. So
okay. Well, and we're going to put all that underneath it for the links and what have you. But I would encourage the viewers to just keep up with you, because you're doing a lot of dynamic work. I'm excited about a lot that you're doing. I'm excited to have connected with you personally, energetically, and I'm really a supporter of what you're doing right now. Also, so
that, sister.
Whenever
I love you so much.
I love you too, girl. Like it's just like it's like a reconnection. Talking about wounds being healed. You know, this planet is doing some really good stuff, and we're here to help and support Gaia, Sophia. So, thanks a lot for being on the show. Once again, you know, this has been really powerful talking about the divine feminine, and I trust that the listeners, our guests today, just, you know, were able to walk away with a lot. But please leave any comments, any questions, connect up with Saralise. I will leave all of the information beneath this video, and you know, and we'll you know, stay caught up over the coming months. And thank you so much for taking the time out, because I know you got a lot going on, girl. But thank you for coming on today, and love you, and all support and energy is coming your way to get things done that you've done. Definitely.
That for all of us, you know, it's
absolutely. It's all symbiotic. Yeah, it's synchronicity for sure.
For the benefit of all beings.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you guys for tuning in again at Circle Healing Network. We appreciate you, you know, staying in and listening to this interview. You could be doing anything, and we appreciate those of you who are just constantly looking to just raise your consciousness about the real stuff that's going on the planet, not the disinformation, but the real work that's happening out here. So again, thank you from Circle Healing Network. Look forward to seeing you the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.